Hello, I'm Lukas from the Medical University of Innsbruck, and thank you very much for having me here and to give us the opportunity to talk about NF-test in front of such an amazing community. And all of us are loving Nextflow because it's a powerful and flexible platform, and it helps us to create scalable and reproducible scientific pipelines. However, when we create complex pipelines, then we are confronted with new challenges. Ensuring that it works correctly, our pipeline could be a very complex task. Adding new features without breaking existing ones could be non-trivial, could be time-intensive, and also maintaining such a complex pipeline requires a lot of time and could be sometimes a frustrating task. And on every change, we are confronted with the question, does our pipeline still generate scientifically validated results? And software testing is the process of evaluating and verifying a software product or a pipeline so that we can ensure that it does what it is supposed to do. And also automated testing is for scientific pipeline development essential because it confirms the pipeline's functionality, it ensures accurate processing and data analysis, and it helps us also to optimize performance and also cost efficiency. And overall, all this helps us to increase our productivity and finally validate our results and to create scientifically validated results. So the big question now is how we can test Nextflow pipelines. And to address this problem, we developed NF-test. And the idea of NF-test is to create a domain-specific language that is as similar as possible to the Nextflow language. And the main idea about NF-test is that we describe the expected pipeline behavior by using different blocks, the when block and the then block. And then we can use different assertions to create and formulate our assumptions of the pipeline. And NF-test provides you dozens of functions with the aim that we can write small, elegant, and readable assertions. And NF-test also simplifies handling Nextflow channel testing and all this Nextflow specific tasks, specific stuff. And behind the framework itself, it provides a command line program to generate boilerplate code so that we can easily start with new test cases without investing a lot of time of writing or rewriting existing code and we can save a lot of time. And NF-test also has the same requirements as Nextflow, so it's easy to install on your local workstation for your development process, but you can also install it on some continuous integration system, on GitHub Action. So on every push, on every commit, NF-test is rerun and ensures that your pipeline is working correctly. And NF-test allows you to test the whole scientific project, so your whole pipeline project. You see here a graph of the fetch NGS pipeline, and NFS allows you to test processes, to write simple unit tests on a process level, but you can also test integration tests. You can also write integration tests. That means you can test your workflows to ensure that the processes are connected in the right way. You can test your Nextflow channel operations. And you can also create end-to-end tests, so you can test the entire pipeline with all the inputs and outputs. And the good thing is that everything is done with the same syntax, with the same concept, so you can easily switch between these different levels of testing. And I think the best way to introduce you NF-test is showing you an example. Here we use a simple pipeline for fast queue preprocessing. that use FastB and multi-QC. You can see here the simple pipeline. We have a main Nextflow file where we include the processes. We have here the FastB process and here the multi-QC process. And you can see here we load the new channel from the input parameter. We start the FastB process with this channel that creates filtered FastQ files and also a JSON file. And in the last step, we use multi-QC to create some fancy HTML report. And now in the first step, we want to test our entire pipeline. For that, we create a new file, an NF test file. And each file is a test suite. And you can see here, this test suite starts with some specific keyword. In our case, we want to test a pipeline, so we started with Nextflow pipeline. Then we can give our test suite a name. We can specify the location of our Nextflow file. And then one test suite contains one or more test cases. A test case starts always with the test keyword followed by a name. And inside of this test case here, we can then define the when and the then block. In our example, we set in the when block the parameters. We have here some test file, some test FastQ file. We set also the output directory. And then NFTest uses all these parameters set here in the when block to run the pipeline. Once the pipeline is completed, then NFTest executes here the then block to check your assumptions and assertions. In this example, first we check the status, the state of our workflow, if it's successful, and then we can open the two files and can ensure that the files that were created by this pipeline have the MD5 sum from the expected files. We can then use the NFTest command line tool with the test command to run our test script, and you can see it here. Each test case is executed. We have here everything green, so we see that we have no errors in our tests. And you can see here on this example, with only about 9 lines of code, we have written a test that ensures that our pipeline produces the correct result files. When we now change a parameter of the process, for example here, the Q parameter, and when we rerun this script, then we can see here that our assertion failed because we have a different output file with a different number of reads. So the MD5 sum is different, and we see immediately that we have some breaking change and we need to take some action. We can also test, as mentioned before, not only the entire pipeline, but also the process. You can see here we have simple to replace Nextflow pipeline with Nextflow process. We can then specify the name of the process we want to test, in our case FastB. And in the when block, we can now set the inputs of the process. In this case, we set the first input of the process to a file channel of our FastQ test file. And in the then block, we can now check the process state, and we have also access to all the output channels of a process. For example, here we can check if the first item in the FastQ channel has the expected MD5 sum. And you can see here that writing tests for a lot of output files could be very annoying because it's a manual task. You have to find the correct MD5 sums. And to overcome this, we introduced snapshot testing. And the idea is to reduce all this manual validation by creating a snapshot that is then automatically checked by NFTest against the current run, and it enables to make regression tests more easily, more efficient, and it also ensures that you have with a single line of code a possibility to check that you have reproducible results and that the output of your pipeline is consistent across runs. We can see it here on this sample. We have here then with different assertions where we check different files, and that we can now replace with this line of code where we create, because we create now a snapshot of the FASTQ output channel, and NFTest automatically creates for us this snapshot file and then checks if it's matched in every subsequent run. And this snapshot is very flexible. You can include different objects, multiple objects, so it's a very nice possibility to write simple and efficient test cases. Besides snapshots, we have other highlights in NFTest. We support YAML, JSON, or also JZip files. We have also some plugin mechanisms so that users, so the community can write additional plugins to add additional file formats. For example, you have a faster plugin. And NFTest is also written like Nextflow in Groovy, so it's possible to import and reuse any existing Groovy or Java library, so you can easily use existing libraries to write nice and efficient assertions. And since the last release, we have also process dependencies where you can run one process to generate the input data of another process. And the best way to get in touch with all these features is to read our documentation on our website. And here we have different tutorials. We also have collected resources from the community. We have videos, we have tutorials. So I think that helps to get in touch with NFTest. So one last question, what's the next step of NFTest? So our idea or our aim is that we try to simplify the process of writing, running, and debugging test cases. And for that, we are working on a Visual Studio Code extension that automatically parses your NFTest files. You can see it here. It detects all the tests, and when you then click on this play button near one test case, it automatically executes this test case. You can see the output of NFTest in the terminal window, so it's very easy to run tests with one simple click. And this extension is also integrated very seamless into Visual Studio Code. So you can click here on the typical test icon. You see a list, a tree of all founded test cases in your project. You can run tests on you can run one test, or you can run all the tests at once. So it's very easy and helps you to develop test cases. We hope that we can release a first beta in the next weeks, and this beta will then available on the following GitHub link, but we hope that we can make this process more fun and efficient with such an extension. So before I conclude my presentation, I would like to thank the community. It's fantastic to see how a two-man show project as a side project is now a community project where a lot of people from the NF Core community invested so much time to bring it to the next level, to push it, and it was fantastic yesterday to enter in a room and to see that so much people are using NFTest. And with all this, thank you very much for your support, thank you for your attention, and enjoy the Nextflow Summit.
Thank you so much. That was extremely clear. I understood almost all of it. And for context, I ran my first Nextflow pipeline on Monday this week. So very clear. Thank you very much. We don't really have time for questions, but there's very active discussion on Slack. So I recommend you join that.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for your talk.